Hello everybody, Ray here, and I'm here to tell you about something that was a collective effort. Now originally I had made this video a week ago or so. Yeah, it was before this week started. It's Saturday right now and I'm hoping to get this up today, though it's not looking promising because I still have to edit it, and it's 4 at the moment when I'm recording this, so we'll see. But it'll at least get up tomorrow, if not today. The reason this video is a little late is because of this is gonna be such a weird excuse, but when I was originally going to start making the video, right, I recorded the first session, and then we had a D&D night with the group that I was talking about in my D&D stories. Go click them. It's the card thing, which is like over there. And so we went for like a 7-hour session, and it ended at 5 in the morning, I believe. It was a very good session, but it just took that long. My brain couldn't handle it, like being awake the next day, and then the next day I had other things to do, and then just kept spiraling into the whole just not having enough time because I couldn't sleep well because I fucked up my sleep schedule. So now I'm making this. The other reason being that I had to correct a bunch of spelling and formatting errors that were in the original Origin PDF. That's the word. and so, like, as I was making the video last time, I just realized, oh, this should be worded better, and oh, I don't have this correctly, like this word correctly, and you know, so word spelled correctly. So, I as I was going through, I was just like, oh shit, I need to redo this, and I just didn't have time until today. So anyway, let's get into it, shall we? The reason why this came about is that one of my friends in the campaign that I was talking about is he is actually the one who's playing Ralph. And he asked me if Ralph, dies or something. If Ralph dies or something, I want to make a backup character. And I was like, okay. So he was like doing that, and then he messaged me later and was like, so I was looking at Sorcerers, and I was looking at the Origin thing, and the Origin thing just says, hey, where did your power come from? So for instance, there's the Draconic Sorcerer and the Wild Magic Sorcerer. So those two just have their power coming from a different source. They're innate and natural are the same word. Their innate power comes from those forces. So he was like, hey, so can I make like a space sorcerer, a space wizard? And I was like, yeah, sure. And originally we had started thinking about it as like just the spells had different looks to them, and they did some different damages, and we started equating force damage to space, so the astral plane like having force damage, although I'm pretty sure it's more connected to psionics because of the Githyanki and the other kinds of stuff that are really native to it, but that's neither here nor there. We were talking more of a physical kind of magic. So we started thinking, and after doing, this was like a couple weeks ago, after doing a session, the other members of the group and I were just kind of hanging around for a little bit. We started getting into it. We started talking about, well, what if the magic came from the astral plane? So we started thinking about like space things, right? And then we started thinking about, oh, okay, what about using the signs of the zodiac, the astrological signs? And so we started to look up the horoscope stuff, and the horoscope stuff is extremely generalized and really, really annoying and stupid to go through. And it's we all started, like, we all expressed how much we don't like that whole I'm born under this sign, so I'm this way, but every single thing is so general that it could apply to literally anybody if they read it at a certain point in their life, so it doesn't matter. So we all hated that shit. And we decided to kind of give it more meaning, in the sense of making it more of a concrete thing for a sorcerer's origin. So we came up with star signs, and the whole aspects of the zodiac being powers that you get to your sorcerer, or for your sorcerer, at certain levels. So the way it works in 5th edition is you get a origin feature at 1st level, at 6th level, at 14th level, and at 18th level. So you get 4 of them. And we decided, okay, so let's go sign by sign. You can only pick 4, and they'll kind of hopefully be balanced enough that you can have multiple people play this kind of origin, and you can have a whole party of completely different sorcerers, you know? So this turned into a whole, I would like to say 15 to 20 hours of work, I think. Somewhere around there. Maybe it was a little less. Maybe it was like 12 to 15 hours. But I know I put in a few just to format this on the Homebrew, which you don't know is a fantastic site that lets you make custom, like, things that look just like they're in the spellbook, or not in the spellbook, in the player's handbook. And it's very nice. I love it. The formatting is great. Even though I'm not great at code, it's very simple to pick up, so yay. But yeah, so I started to make this PDF that you can see right there and there. The pages 1 and 2 are just going over the what the sorcerer class gives as base in the player's handbook. So it's just, this whole PDF is like, if you want to play a sorcerer and you don't really want to go through the entire handbook, or you don't have a handbook, you can at least go, okay, this is what I have, and then you can go through the origin stuff. So it's formatted the same way. It's just that it doesn't include the draconic origin one and the wild mage one. So yeah. So once we hit page 3, we start looking into the actual Astral Origin, and I will read this out to you. I'll show it on screen, hopefully somewhere. So, Astral Origin. This is also, before I get too far into this, the other thing about this is none of us are artists, and I didn't feel comfortable taking somebody else's art and putting it on here without their permission. And I am bad at asking people for things, so I didn't ask for anybody's art, so I just left it without art. It's just the words. Apologies for that. If it's not aesthetically pleasing, it's at least somewhat aesthetically pleasing because it looks kind of like it's an official thing. But anyway, Astral Origins. A sorcerer that has been touched by the astral plane in some way, whether being born in it or being touched by an entity that resides in it, can find themselves able to control the magic that flows between the planes. As I read this, I realize now that for some reason control has 2 L's. Anyway, aspects of the zodiac. So this is where we start getting into the actual mechanics. Your innate magic comes from your connection to the astral plane, allowing you to channel the power of the stars themselves. Star signs. When you would take your Astral Origin feature, you may choose one of the powers of the star signs listed below. The same star sign can't be chosen twice. and this occurs at 1st level, 6th level, 14th, 18th level. So pretty simple, works the same way as other origins. And here we go with the star signs themselves and what they give you. Star sign Aries. When you take this aspect, you feel the eternal majesty of the universe give you strength. Immediately after taking this aspect, you replace your Constitution modifier for hit points with your Charisma modifier instead, when you roll for health each level. This applies retroactively to all previous levels and to your uses of hit die during a short rest. So pretty straightforward. If you have a Sorcerer, they cast off Charisma, right? So it determines their spell DC and how powerful their spell attack can be. And so, but not how powerful, but how well it can hit. So we decided, okay, Constitution's like hard to get as a good thing for a Sorcerer. Usually having a healthy Sorcerer means you have kind of a worse Sorcerer, because something about them is pretty bad. So we thought, okay, wouldn't it be cool if instead of using your Constitution modifier, you use your Charisma modifier for health? So you could have a Sorcerer that looks real good, but is emaciated and and just sickly, and it's great because you look at the guy and he's like, and he looks like so shriveled and everything, but you hit him and he doesn't go down for like a good like 20, 30 HP worth of damage per hit, you know? But he looks sickly. It's interesting to say, you look real good so you're healthy, but you also are just super frail. It doesn't do anything for your Constitution saving throw or anything like that. But it's kind of a funny thing to just have yourself look beautiful and kind of be healthy, but also be extremely sick. But yeah, it's a nice little change there. And hopefully, I don't think we did extensive thoughts on each of these as like a player, as a DM, as the min-maxer, as the counter to the min-maxer, you know? We did as much as we could to figure out how to make it so that it's as balanced as possible for both a player who's kind of new or experienced and a DM who's also new or experienced, so that, you know, neither side is frustrated having to deal with this. Moving right along. Star sign Taurus. When you take this aspect, you channel the power of the unending universe. As a touch action, you may grant one designated creature Relentless Endurance, page 41 of the player's handbook, so that when they are reduced to 0 hit points, but not killed outright, they can drop to 1 hit point instead. This effect lasts for 1 minute or until it is triggered. You regain this ability after you finish a long rest. Again, pretty self-explanatory. Taurus gives you Relentless Endurance like a half-orc gets as their racial ability. It works kind of the same way, but you can give this to anybody. And you could potentially give it to a half-orc who's already used it, even. But it's just that one little bit of like, okay, your halfling rogue is in the front line, and the thing is going to go after you, and you're like, okay, I need to get this guy to not die. And so you go and you touch him. And then he's like, okay, now you won't die, at least for one attack. Or perhaps they'll miss both the attacks, but it still lasts for that whole minute, or until it's triggered, obviously, so that it's not just going for a while. It's usually good for one combat during your day, since it's a long rest. So it's not like, I think half-orcs get it on a short and long rest, so potentially it's worse than a half-orcs, which is good, because you don't want to have it be as good as that. I might be talking out of my ass there. I actually can't remember. Now I need to go get my player's handbook just to check. Why are half-orcs the, like, last race? That's so weird to me. They don't have these in alphabetical order or anything. It's so weird. Oh, okay. I'm talking out of my ass. Relentless Endurance for a half-orc is also on a long rest. But that's fine, because both either way, you might get 2 if somebody else is playing a half-orc. Hell, you could give it to yourself if you're playing a half-orc and you're the sorcerer. But again, it's literally just up to you. It's just a more helpful utility kind of supportish aspect that you can take, which is something that I think a sorcerer kind of needs. We wanted to make it so that you could have a variety of combat, and later on you'll have some roleplay stuff. And even with this, you can still have roleplay stuff regardless, because you are starborn, basically. You know, you got your power from the stars. It's interesting. Star sign Gemini. When you take this aspect, you are filled with the power of a binary star. As an action, you can summon a physical duplicate of yourself within a 30-foot radius once that lasts for a minute. This duplicate acts on your initiative, can deliver touch spells you know, has the same hit points and AC as you have when summoned, and you may also trade places with this duplicate one time as a bonus action. Upon death, the clone persists for the remaining duration of the ability, but can't be used. You regain this ability after finishing a short or long rest. So, this one's a little more complicated, and it kind of adds a little bit of an escape thing for your sorcerer. So, say you are in a combat and something runs right up to you, right? You summon your duplicate 30 feet away, and then bonus action, blink to it, basically. You switch places with it. And so now you're over there, and the thing is over here. And it'll at least have to use its movement to get up to you. But potentially, I mean, it doesn't notice because you are a duplicate. A perfect duplicate. So, and it can still be hit, and it's physical. So you can use it to trick it. But it can only use touch spells that you know. Which can be good. You know, Shocking Grasp, Cure Light Wounds, or Cure Wounds, excuse me. I don't know what other touch spells there are. Drawmage's Instant Summons? What? I don't know what that means. Huh. That's cool. Anyway, like I was saying, it's a touch spell, so it's not going to be the best thing. The thing is that it's once every short rest as well, so you can't use it to just like climb a mountain unless you want to spend 16 hours, you know, waiting, and your party's not going to like you if you're doing that. But you could use it as like a, say there's a 30-foot wall, you want to see what's on the other side, you put your duplicate up there, you switch to it, you're on top of the wall now. Is that a bad idea? Potentially. Who knows what could be on the other side of that wall? You could put the duplicate there and wait for a second, and then if it gets full of arrows or whatever, then you're like, I think I'll pass. Blink into it, you know? So it's nice to have to be both an escape as well as something you can do just to have. And it's not as good as, I would say, Invoke Duplicity from the Cleric, because the Cleric's is, yes, it is, it can be used to trick an enemy into thinking that that's you, absolutely, but the best part about it is that it itself is an illusion. So if you, where is Invoke Duplicity? There you are. If you use it, you can move it and such, and yeah, you can cast spells as though you were in the illusion space. So for Invoke Duplicity, you can do any kind of spell, any spell. But with this one, you can only do touch spells, and it's also an illusion, so it can go through things and without provoking attacks of opportunity and without dying. It can stay there for a whole minute. The other thing about this is that Invoke Duplicity is a concentration spell, but the whole difference being that this is a physical thing kind of justifies it to being not a concentration, because it can be killed. easily. If it's you and you have low health, right, and you cast it somewhere and then something else gets up to it and kills it, it's dead. You can't use it. So again, hopefully that's not super broken. There's probably a way. Who knows, honestly. But we tried very hard to make sure that it's not. But yeah, I may change the wording and such again before this can be viewed publicly again. It's already publicly available. I've put it out there, but for downloading, I think I'll have to change a couple things again now that I'm reading it like a third time. Or really, this is my 6th, but whatever. Now, let's go to star sign Cancer. When you take this aspect, you extend your power like an asteroid field to protect your allies. As an action, you may grant up to 3 designated creatures plus 2 AC for a number of rounds equal to your charisma modifier. You regain this ability after finishing a long rest. Pretty self-explanatory again. You literally just say you, or you, me, you, or me, you. Sorry. But you literally just choose 3 and say, okay, you have plus 2 AC. But it's only for as much as your charisma modifier is, so if we're thinking maxes of natural stats, 18, that's a plus 3, so you get that for 3 rounds. Pretty good. You get 20 as your charisma, that's a plus 4. Above that, plus 5, plus 6, it's harder to get, but you can do it, absolutely. And it only lasts for those few rounds. And it's just plus 2. It's not the worst thing ever, but AC is never bad to get higher. So you have your, I don't know, your fighter who has a shield and plate mail or whatever, and then you bump them up to 20 AC. I believe plate mail is 16. Excuse me, your fighter has plate mail, then it's 22, because plate mail is 18. I was thinking the other one. Scale? But anyway, again, it's extremely helpful. And it only lasts for those few rounds, but those few rounds could be crucial. Or you could do it for your backline, you know? You have you as a sorcerer, who has a very small AC. You have, I don't know, a wizard as well. And then you have another sorcerer. Or you have your party of sorcerers, you know? Everybody gets plus 2 AC. Could that combined with the shield spell, it's pretty good. It can help. But that's, of course, the shield spell is a reaction, and it only lasts for until your next turn, so this one is just for that many rounds. It's very good. I've said good like a couple times now. So I think that's everything I need to talk about with Cancer. Let's move on to Leo. Star sign Leo. When you take this aspect, you feel the power of a meteorite's impact aid your blows. As a bonus action, you gain advantage for your next attack roll. You regain this ability after finishing a short or long rest. Now, some people might think that's not that much, to be fair. But let me tell you something. There is a spell in the player's handbook for sorcerers and wizards alike. It's called True Strike. True Strike is a cantrip. Now, True Strike is a terrible spell. It's absolutely horrible. Let me tell you what True Strike does. You extend your hand and point a finger at a target in range. Your magic grants you brief insight into the target's defenses. On your next turn, you gain advantage on your first attack roll against the target, provided that the spell hasn't ended. This spell is one action. It's your whole action to cast. You have concentration up to 1 round, and its range is 30 feet. So you have to spend your whole action to cast this one spell to give you advantage next round. Now think about this, right? You're a squishy little sorcerer boy, girl, other, peregrine falcon, who knows? You're like, okay, I need to get advantage on this guy next time, and I'm gonna use True Strike. Now you only have your movement and your bonus action. What can you do? You can move away, and then I don't know. Your bonus action attack won't get, if you have a bonus action attack or spell, it won't get advantage because it has to be next turn because of the way True Strike is. So what are you doing? You know? At least with this is at least with this, I was gonna say it's not a knock on wizard spell, but it kind of is because True Strike is awful. But anyway, at least with this, you have it as a bonus action, and then you can immediately use a spell to do that. You don't have to waste your cantrip, your whole action, plus the fact that you could die before even getting to your next turn. It's entirely possible. So, hopefully, that makes a lot of sense, and that it's at least something that you would take instead of True Strike. Because True Strike sucks. Moving right along. Star sign Virgo. When you take this aspect, you gain the qualities of a star cradle to nurture and heal. As an action, you may designate up to 6 creatures, except for yourself, within a 30-foot radius. These creatures gain 1d4 hit points per your sorcerer level. You regain this ability after finishing a long rest. So, the way that we kind of thought about this is you want to have a supporter, a support kind of sorcerer, I guess, yeah. And you don't want to. We didn't want it to say be more useful than a cleric, or you know, a paladin, or any of the dedicated healers, but it is definitely something that can help. Say you're in a fight and your entire team, except for you, is pretty low, and you need that health, right? Otherwise, you're gonna totally wipe the fight, and you might have a TPK. Be terrible, right? But at least with this, you could go, okay, all of my team, because it says up to 6 creatures. You may designate up to 6 creatures. So you don't have to. You can choose your entire party, who is probably under 6. Usually. Depends on your DM, of course, but usually your party's under 6. And the NPCs that you recruit along the way, potentially. It's a habit for people that I play with, that they recruit as many NPCs as they can. You can just say, okay, each of you gets, let's say you're 6th level, you get 64 hit points back. You roll it all out. The maximum, let's use maximums. The maximum you can get is 24 hit points. It's not much, but it's pretty good. It can be a lot, to be fair, to something like a rogue, or another sorcerer, or a wizard. Absolutely. Could be really good for them. Could give them a full heal, who knows? But this can only happen once a day, really. You know? So after a long rest, that's when you can use it. If you use it for the day, you're basically, that's your one lifeline that you got. And it doesn't affect you, right? This is purely a support move. It's not going to help you at all, but it'll help your entire team. And let's see, at max level, right? That's 80 if we're going with maximum. Barbarians, let's say max level barbarian with max health. This isn't even counting constitution modifier for the barbarian, though. As a reminder. So at max health, 20th level, it would have 240 hit points. That's not even thinking about constitution modifier. Let's say they got 12 every time. That 80 hit points is a fair chunk. It's not much in the grand scheme. Could be. But it's a fair chunk. So, like, you're fighting... Let's say you're fighting, I don't know, Orcus. For some reason. You go down into the abyss, and you're fighting Orcus. He's got your barbarian down to, like, 60 health. You're like, 80 more health, my dude. Or you roll really, really shit and you get 20 more health. That's pretty good too. Every little bit helps. Could be Orcus does like 60 damage a swing, who knows? But anyway, so it's pretty good. It's really good, to be fair. But it's a one-time use thing, so it can be entirely just a quick like, oh god, we're all gonna die thing. And potentially you won't. It's your one lifeline, if you take it. Let's go on to star sign Libra. When you take this aspect, you feel the balance between the stars and the void of space, and how to apply it to your inner power. As a bonus action, you may trade 4 hit points for 1 sorcery point, up to max HP, once. Or 1 sorcery point for 4 hit points, up to max HP, once. You regain this ability after finishing a long rest. So, we were thinking it's a risk-reward thing, because it's balance, right? You could say if you have max HP without your Constitution or Charisma modifier, if you're talking about Aries, you could have your max HP being 80, right? And the most sorcerer points you get as a sorcerer are 20. And say you wanted all 20 back. You sacrifice all of your HP for all 20 sorcery points. You could do that. Turn those sorcery points into spell slots. Use them for meta magic. You know, you could do that. You would be extremely low health, but you could do that. And then, if you're, say, the other side of the way, you have a bunch of hit points, or a bunch of sorcery points, but no hit points. You could then say, I need hit points. Spend all of your sorcery points, get up to 80 HP back. You have no sorcery points. And you can only do this once, remember. Either. So you can't do both, right? So you go down all your sorcery points, you have all your HP back. You can't sacrifice HP now for sorcery points. Or you can't sacrifice sorcery points for HP anymore. It's the one-time thing. And then you have nothing to make more spell slots or use meta magic. But you're healthy. Use cantrips if you don't have any spells. You're still in the fight. Again, risk reward, balance. At least that's what we hope. So yeah, it's a fun little thing that potentially could prove to be that crucial thing you need during a fight, or maybe it screws you over. So star sign Scorpio. When you take this aspect, you gain the power of a focused supernova to explode across the foe. You may, as a reaction, reflect the last instance of damage inflicted to you onto the target that dealt it, as force damage. The target makes a Constitution saving throw versus your spell save DC. On a successful save, the target takes half damage. You regain this ability after finishing a long rest. This is a risky one to take. Let's say, this is the example we used all the time. You're fighting a dragon, a red dragon. Let's say an ancient red dragon. They use their fire breath all over you. You say, I'm alive! And then they get hit by a blast of force damage. Now, Constitution is a hard thing to get past. A lot of monsters are very good at Constitution. So, at that point, you potentially are going to do all of that damage that you just took. Let's say like 91 damage. If you have a sorcerer that has that much health. 91 damage to it. And that 91 damage could kill the thing. Absolutely. Could be the last blow you need. Or it could just be a scratch. You know? So it's another risk reward thing, which we were very much a fan of doing that. And it kind of makes sense because Scorpio is like the sign of vengeance and such. At least in some of these. We went through a bunch of horoscope things, so it's annoying, but we chose that one because it seemed the best to use as a grounded kind of aspect for it. So the other thing to mention, of course, is that whatever damage it dealt to you, whatever it was, fire damage, poison damage, bludgeoning, something, it gets dealt back as force damage. Force damage is hard to counter, to resist, because not many things do. So that's why we were thinking, okay, we want something that guarantees that kind of damage, right? At least in the stuff that we were looking through in the monster manual and such. I think there was like 1 to maybe 3. I could be wrong, and I'm not gonna look. Because I know it was very low, that things that were resistant to force damage. So force damage will get past damage immunities. It's already a magical damage, so it'll get past those things that are immune to non-magical damage. Very good. Hopefully it works out well and it doesn't completely break the game. Because again, you can only use it once a day. And it could, if they don't make that successful save, it could be that damage that you need. Star sign Sagittarius. When you take this aspect, you embrace some of the qualities of a cosmic wanderer and gain insight into how to apply them to your body. As a reaction, you can dissolve your body into a nebulous mist form, causing an enemy to have disadvantage for 1 attack. You regain this ability after finishing a short or long rest. This one goes in tandem with Leo, in the sense that with Leo, that's a bonus action, and then this is a reaction. So let's say instead of shield, you want to use Sagittarius. You can still take shield, of course, but Sagittarius literally just makes it so that if you're gonna get hit by a 1 attack, whether it be a ballista shot or just a single powerful swing. Let's say you've got a giant multi-attacking you, right? Or a dragon multi-attacking you. You survive 2 of the attacks. You immediately become a nebula with stars and specks for like a second, and it gets disadvantage, and it misses you just because of that. It's really just one of those things to just make it so that you can have that safety net for 1 thing. Only once. If you use it as the first thing in a multi-attack, you still got 2 other attacks you have to deal with that are regular, right? They are at normal, rolls. But that 1 attack that you do, it's at disadvantage. So use it wisely. Risk reward. An interesting story. Interesting side note, excuse me. Before we started doing the horoscope things, this was the first kind of ability that we had thought about. And it was originally just called Cosmic Wanderer, but then we changed it to include it when we started going with the horoscope stuff. It fit with Sagittarius, which we were surprised with and happy. Anyway, we're nearly out of star signs. Very close to the end, only 3 more to go. So star sign Capricorn. When you take this aspect, you may surround your allies with rings like the distant planets to protect them. As a bonus action, you may grant a number of creatures equal to your charisma modifier damage resistance against the next instance of magical damage taken for 1 minute. You regain this ability after finishing a long rest. Something you might notice is that a lot of these are bonus actions. This is so that they don't stack. You can't just do one after the other, after the other, after the other during your turn. You have to pick and choose. And remember, you get 4 of these, so if you have 4 that are a bonus action, you gotta choose which one is during the right moment. Something else we thought about, so that you don't just exploit these things all the time. So Capricorn is interesting in the sense of, it's the next instance of magical damage, right? So I'll use this example because it's the one that my friend was like, this is what I would use it for. This is the thing that he said he would do. He would give it to everybody as his bonus action, and then use Fireball right on himself. Let's say you have +4 to your charisma, right? And you use it, and only the 4 of you are like among enemies. Let's say you have even more allies, but they're at least out of range, right? You give it to your 4 friends, including yourself, because you can in this. And then you cast Fireball just right in the middle of everybody. Now, you guys already take half damage, and then you can make the reflex save to take even less. And hey, if you're a monk, because I believe when monks get later levels, they can take no damage if they make the reflex save. Excuse me, not reflex, dexterity. I'm talking in previous edition terminology. You get my meaning. If the monk does it, then they will take no damage, and then they'll even have another shield for another magical attack. So you guys take half damage. You could then take half damage from that again from making your reflex save, and then you take as little damage as possible. Even if you don't make the dexterity save, you can still only take half damage. It's pretty good, and hopefully you won't kill your party with that fireball. Who knows? The thing is, though, if you use it and then somebody just uses like magic missile, it's gone. It's half damage on that magic missile. But then if an area of effect thing happens, that one person doesn't have that anymore. So it's a situational thing. And I'm sure some people are going to hate me for suggesting that, but that is something you could totally do with the fireball kind of thing. But, don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. So these last two, Aquarius and Pisces, the star signs Aquarius and Pisces, they are pretty much the same. They go in tandem, but you can just take one on your sorcerer. But let me just read them out to you. With Aquarius, when you take this aspect, ancient knowledge flows through you that only the stars remember of the magical arts, the events of the past, and the divine. Immediately after taking this aspect, you gain proficiency in history and add 2 to your proficiency bonus on Arcana and religion checks permanently. I'm starting to lose my face. History is something that a sorcerer cannot take as a proficiency unless they take a background. And hey, if you take a background with it, you're probably not going to take this, but that's fine. It also adds +2 to the Arcana and religion checks permanently, but that's if you take those as your proficiency bonus things. So if you are proficient in Arcana and religion, you now have an additional +2. Let's say you take it at level 1, you have a +4 to both of those. That's pretty good. Max level, you would have a +8 to both of those, because your proficiency bonus doesn't go past 6 on any class. And then with Pisces, when you take this aspect, you shine like a star to those around you. Immediately after taking this aspect, you gain proficiency in performance and add 2 to your proficiency bonus on persuasion and insight checks permanently. Performance is another thing that sorcerers don't get to be proficient in their original class kit, so you can have that, which is a fun little roleplay thing because performance is barely used. I wish it was used more. It's usually only reserved for bards, unfortunately. Or sometimes your DM can say, okay, you're trying to do this, you're doing something to distract people. Potentially they could say, use performance instead of deception or something. And then the +2 on persuasion and insight checks, I described this already with the other 2. It'll give you up to a +8 when you're at like max level. Again, pretty good. Now these go in tandem. For instance, if you take one at 1st level and one at 6th level, then you have basically a background without everything a background gives, which is pretty good for like a role play kind of thing. It's just the skills and not like a language or tool proficiency or any of the other stuff that a background can give. But it can just add to that whole, alright, I know about this stuff because the knowledge was granted to me. And so hopefully it can do that for something like a more roleplay heavy kind of thing of like, I know about this stuff because the stars told me or something, you know? Something. Any way you want to take it for like a roleplay thing. But yeah, again, if you're taking both of those, that's 2 of your 4 signs, right? And it might not seem like much, but it can be something that adds up to have the ability to have your proficiency bonus in those skills, and then also have +2 to the 2 that it gives it. I don't know. Hopefully it's something that's appealing, you know? Instead of having to take a background that you want those kinds of skills, you could just say, I'd rather take that and a different background. If you take the background that gives you those skills, then you're probably not going to take those 2 signs. Again, it's up to you. It's up to your choice of how you want to make your sorcerer. We thought long and hard about this origin. Again, I said I put it up on I put it up into the public on both Imager and Reddit. Got some positive responses for both, and the Imager post is up to like 13 upvotes at this point. It's probably the most upvoted thing I've put on anywhere. So hopefully it becomes a part of other people's games. It's really what we wanted. We wanted to have something that is fun and good for anybody, and that people can use and give us feedback on if you think of anything that should be kind of adjusted. We can think about it, you know. We're trying to play test it a little bit, and hopefully we can refine it to be the best it can be. And if you want this PDF, because I've made the PDF and it's available, I'm actually making a new Discord server. It's the Drowsy Bear in Discord server, which has places where you can just talk to other people, and discuss D&D or do in-character stuff. You know, there's a whole channel for in-character conversation. There is going to be a place where I post, where I put videos up, and where I put this kind of stuff, so you can go and download new stuff. I actually started working on a new type of dragon. It's not anything too special, but it's just something to have as more flavor. And it goes in tandem with this, actually. And I'll talk about it more in another video. But that'll be up there when I put that video together. And anything else, like we've already started... we already did make another archetype for a fighter. So that's coming. And if you want to get into that, that'll be on the Discord as well, as soon as I get a video on it done. We have a lot of fun making this kind of stuff. We spend hours just thinking about it and kind of making it into making them all kind of work. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little breakdown, and join the Discord. I'll be around if you need me. It'll be there to talk to me or anybody else. You know, we can discuss these things and tell me if you use this. Tell me about it. Tell me how it works. If you can get your DM, or if you are a DM and you can convince a player to use this, tell me about how it goes, because it's super cool when I see people saying, you know, this is great, I like this, or, you know, it looks pretty good and such, but I haven't heard anything back about anybody using it yet. And I know my friend who is playtesting it in like it was supposed to be kind of like a one-shot thing, but it's kind of evolved into a weird, not a weird, but an interesting dungeon crawl kind of thing that we were doing. He is a fan of it and he likes it so far, so hopefully everybody else who uses it is okay with it, at least. But yeah, thank you for watching this. I hope you enjoyed. Check the description for the Discord link. And yeah, I think that's it. So I'll see you in the next video. It'll either be a story, or it'll be about the new dragon, or maybe even about the fighter archetype. I don't know. But yeah, thanks for watching. Remember to put this out there for other people if you think it's interesting enough and you like it. like, subscribe, bell. Bye.